First, we want to thank you. We want to thank the regional tech team for manning the entry of our sorors. And sorors, when you come in, please mute yourselves. And so, as we just want to say thank you for coming out tonight. You see, we have a little different format tonight. It's not a webinar, it's actually a Zoom meeting because we wanted to see you while you see us and just have a discussion in this Q&A session, this fireside chat with regional PP&D. So thank you very much for coming out tonight. And we look forward to answering your questions. And if we can't answer your question tonight, we will definitely get back to you. Thank you, Sorors. Next slide, please.
Good evening, Soros. I'll be sharing the legal notice with you this evening. All content shared, displayed, or otherwise presented during this training session, including but not limited to sorority manuals, ceremonial rituals, and other materials that contain Delta's trademarks, copyrights, or any other intellectual property is owned and controlled by Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated and is protected by law. Participants shall not photograph, video record, screen capture, or otherwise copy Delta materials to modify or reproduce for personal or third-party use. Participant further understands, agrees, and acknowledges to be solely liable for any damages in law or in equity resulting from violation of applicable laws and shall be subject to disciplinary action according to the member code of conduct and any other related agreement.
Good evening, sorors. I am Dr. Brandy Nicole Brooks, one of the co-chairs for the sensational South Atlantic Region's Program Planning and Development Committee. Super excited to have you all here tonight. As mentioned, as some of you first logged in, we have a little bit of a different setup tonight where we are not in a webinar where we cannot hear you or see you. So please feel free if you are able to turn on your camera. Turn on your mics when we have a question. We don't want you to just throw it in the chat. We want you to actually engage with us tonight. So quickly, please check your sound. Make sure that you can hear us clearly. Please keep your mic off if you are not speaking. And finally, please use the raise hand feature. One of the things that we have the ability to see in Zoom is when you raise your hand. And so please raise your hand as you have questions as we go through tonight's session. Each subcommittee lead is going to pause at the end of their presentation to allow time for questions if we are within their time limit. If not, we will push those Q&As to the end of our session. So please feel free to drop questions in the chat, but you also have the option of raising your hand. And so with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Sora Parrish.
On mute.
Your mic is off.
You know, I do that sometimes. Thank you, Sarah Brandy Nicole. Sarah, on behalf of our regional director, Sarah Pamela Lewis, and regional representative, Sarah Madison Manley, we appreciate your attendance and look forward to providing you with important information as we answer your questions. Thank you again for participating in our fireside chat with regional PP&D tonight. And we look forward to just really engaging in this Zoom meeting. Thank you, Soros.
All right, Soros. So now we're going to go into economic development. I am Chandra Hurst, the economic development coordinator, and I serve with Lisa Reynolds, as well as Stacy Cook, and you'll hear from Patrice Owens, Day Owens a little afterwards. She's going to be addressing some of the chapter challenge questions. So thank you for being here again, and we'll move on to some commonly asked questions. Again, I've filtered several questions, but I wanted to make sure I hit the highlights, and I kind of populated them all into one session to make sure that you have the information here. So we can go to the next slide. So the red pages, I got one question about red pages, and the question was, what is the goal of the 75%? Well, we're hoping that each chapter will have 75% of the members in their chapter that are business owners submit their business to the Delta Red Pages. That is, of course, a national initiative that we want to make sure that we support in the South Atlantic region. But more importantly, or equally as important, is to make sure that you set up on your internal website a list of all the businesses within your chapter, because the goal is to check with the SOAR first. We want to make sure that we're including our SOARs when you're making those purchases for goods and services, that you consider a SOAR first. So we want to make sure that we're supporting each other in that regard. So we can move on, because the next tranche of questions that I received was more for D-Free. One question was, please let me know if the chapter members decide to participate in D-Free on their own versus the chapter. Well, of course, we appreciate the chapter members signing up, but for you to get credit, the chapter must participate and sign up in D-Free. And I know we had a webinar several months ago that we just had it specifically for D-Free. So we're going to have that recording available for you at a later time when you get the information. We're going to have a Q&A section and information of all the links that you can have available to you to revisit. So you'll be getting that post the webinar tonight. On the next slide, another D-Free information, just to reinforce the additional information that you will receive, which was sent out to you guys, your chapter presidents, and anyone who's joined the call, is the step-by-step instructions to activate the D-Free process. So you will have that guide and that QR code and when you get your email, and it's the detailed step-by-step process that's going to take you through the process. And just remember, I did have someone ask me, hey, I missed the deadline. Well, unfortunately, the deadline was through December 31st. So if you missed that, you did miss out on the complimentary services that was specifically to the South Atlantic region. So we can move on to the next slide. So again, I'm going to turn it over to Patrice, but I guess I'll go ahead and take questions for D-Free now, and then Patrice can address the chapter challenge questions. But keep in mind, you will get the recording. You'll also get the QR codes and the necessary information to go through the steps that we presented before. And you will also receive the email to D-Free directly if you have questions. And they have 30-minute sessions that they have that you can jump on at any time to have any and if you need additional services or help. So at this time, I guess I'll open it up to any questions that I did not cover specifically in the couple slides that we had here.
I do not see any hands, nor do I see anything in the chat.
All right. Well, I will turn it over to Patrice Day Owens, and she will cover the questions regarding the chapter challenge.
Good evening, sorors. I am going to take a moment to answer some questions about the D-Free Challenge. This is new this year and another opportunity for chapters to win some awards at the conference this summer. If you are curious as to when the award submissions are due, they are due April 1st, 2026. We'll take them, I believe, up to 11:59. April 2nd will be too late. Another question is, how do you access the Google form? If you look to the bottom right-hand corner, you will see a QR code. I will ask sorors, if you are interested in filling out this form, please scan the code at this time. Next slide. If you don't complete all the parts of the D3 challenge. There are several parts to the challenge. The challenge was set up so that you could pace yourself as a chapter. We will score your, let's say, your entry will be scored based on the total possible points. So if you did not do all parts of the challenge, we suggest that you still submit your form so that the people who are judging it can just get a score. It does not mean that you won't do well in the challenge, but complete as much as you can. We still have a good 5 weeks left. If you submit your application late, it will not be accepted. Again, all forms are due April 1st, 2026. Next slide, please. What are the judges looking for specifically? That would be chapter participation. If you had surveys, what were the results? How many members created a budget? How much did you save collectively as a chapter? And did you increase financial awareness? Next slide, please. If the chapters receive feedback, if feedback is offered, it will be shared after the judging concludes. Again, if we give feedback, the feedback will be offered after all judging has been concluded. Another question was there are a couple of videos that you must submit on your form for points. And usually the Google form will only allow 10 gigabytes to be uploaded. If you have any issues with this, technology will be able to assist you. And for that reason, we ask that you do not wait until the last minute to submit the form. We don't want you to, the only reason you couldn't submit the form was because your videos prevented the form from going through. So please try to get it in as early as possible. Next slide. I'm done. If there are any questions for D-Free, we have a few minutes left. This is the D-Free challenge I am asking questions for. If you have any questions, I can open it up at this time.
So that means that everybody's participated in D-Free Challenge and you've all signed up for to participate as a chapter. So when we go to the regional conference, we got some really good people that we want to have some good competition, and we want to show up not just on a regional level, but on a national stage. So we are hoping that you guys are taking advantage of these resources that they are provided to us through D-Free. To promote economic development in our community. So thank you so much. I do see one question. Rhonda?
Yes, I just want to confirm that if the chapter did not sign up by December 31st, at this point, we would continue to encourage sorors to participate in D-Free, and they would be participating on an individual basis, but the chapter would not be receiving credit for that in the judging. I just want to make sure that I'm clear on that.
No, Sora. So you can still participate as a chapter. You just won't get the discounted rate.
Okay,
right?
understood.
So
Okay.
we're encouraging, we had some people that missed it, but you can still participate as a chapter. You can also, but if the chapter doesn't sign up, an individual sign up, you won't get credit for that. It has to be a chapter initiative. Of course, individuals will sign up as well, but the chapter has to participate. So you would just have to incur the cost at this point if you missed the December 31st deadline.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We do have one question in the chat. Are there any chapters that have successfully completed this and that we can connect with directly?
I know that the Chicago chapter did a great job, but I will double check and get the details back from D-Free to see who has all participated, and I can get that for you.
All right, I don't see any other hands or questions. So next up, we have our educational development.
Good evening, Sarah. It's wonderful to have you join us this evening. I am the coordinator for the Educational Development Subcommittee, and on that committee, the wonderful Sarahs that shared that space with me are Sarah Teresa Watson, Sarah Tanya Brown Fletcher, Sarah Yolanda Whitfield, and Sarah Yolanda Cut Pratt. And we are happy to provide you some feedback on some questions that we were asked. Next slide, please. While we all want to identify the young folks that we work with in some kind of way, when we take them out or even when they do things in our chapters, there is a standard that we must still adhere to that. And there was a question around, having Delta Gym or Delta Academy patches. And this came from the international president that no, there are no patches, and at least no standalone patches that you do. And what you're encouraged to do is to either have shirts or t-shirts where you have gyms written on the front of them, or even Delta Academy. So no, there are no patches. That was a question that was posed to us as a committee. Our next question was relative to the regional awards that are coming up. And this is good that you're asking this, because it's going to lead into some other questions that after this. There are no specific categories for specific youth programs. For instance, if you have Delta Academy, there's no specific award for that, or no specific award for gyms. However, everything comes under educational development. So if you want to submit one of your programs under educational development, then you can do so there. But there are no separate categories for that, if you were not aware of that. And so we just wanted to make sure we clarify that. Next slide, please. And so this leads me into answering a question. This and the next question are sort of in the same grouping, but this has to do with alignment and strengthening your program. If you are not aware, their national guidelines do have a framework, or at least an alignment framework about youth programs, especially, and it comes under educational development. So I'm not sure how chapters, when you set up your committees around it, you may have a Delta Gyms committee or a Delta Academy committee or an embodied committee, which is okay as a subcommittee. But what they do fall under, and the alignment is, you have a PP&D committee. Then under that, you have educational development. It's a subcommittee. And under that, your youth programs fall. And that's pretty much the alignment. And so when you look at that, it works well, in terms of having structure, the implementation of your youth programs. And certainly, as we are doing this right now, going through these awards, and even when you do evaluation, it helps with the value to align your evaluation practices as well. And so you really want to look at those national policies and procedures. They have a template, and that really is the template. And so that's how you strengthen your programs, and it also aligns for us regionally. So when we are evaluating and reading your programs for submissions for awards, it's clearly delineated out how that alignment is, rather than looking at separate programs here and there. And so if you've not done that, you may want to look at that consistency in your structure, so that you certainly can support that clear implementation and evaluation. And so it sort of helps to build your submission for national awards, the eligibility. Next slide. And so how do you do that, strengthen that consistency and accuracy? Certainly by ensuring that your youth programs, as I said, that you align them with that national policy and that framework, that you have PP&D, education and development, and then your youth programs that you're doing in your chapter fall under that. And so there is guidance on that branding, and using, kind of gym related logos. So you really want to look at the regional. We will provide information for that as well. But the national website has uh, under the national policies and procedures what that looks like. And so I really invite you to read that information, so that as you're looking at your programs, that you are fully compliant and that you align with what the national policies and procedures outlines in terms of branding. Next slide. I think that's all for me. If there are any questions for the Educational Development Subcommittee, I'd be happy to take those questions and answer as best I can.
Sorry, Von Baker Payne.
Thank you. Good evening, Soars, and good evening, Sora Reese. I do have a question about Embody specifically. One thing that has continued to come up in our chapter is that the national strategic priorities, one of them is the empowerment of women and girls. And so some soars in our chapter have voiced concern that Embody doesn't necessarily fall within that strategic priority, and they are actually have been advocating for us to not do Embody while that's a national strategic priority. What's your take on that? And are you seeing that chapters are still very much pushing Embody? I mean, we're still doing it, but I just wanted to have some information to bring back to my chapter to support why we should continue to do Embody.
I'm glad you brought up the National Strategic Plan, and that is what we focus on. And while Embody may not be included in that, that is certainly the youth program. But that is really a chapter's decision based on their capacity. And what I mean by that, their membership capacity to implement their programs. And that, and while we would, certainly national sort of advocates that, we support that at the region, whatever you're able to implement. We understand that we have different size chapters and in different resources in those chapters, and so there may be chapters who may have a Delta Academy but not a Delta Gyms. There may be a chapter that has Delta Gyms, maybe not Delta Academy. It really is a decision that your chapter needs to make in terms of moving forward with that. There are chapters who still do all three if they have that capacity. And even if it is not within that strategic scope of what we're looking at, they still implement an Embody program. But it really is up to the chapter to determine what they can feasibly do or what they really want to do in terms of their chapter's capacity.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sarah Reese, do you mind if I chime in also?
Oh, go right ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah, for that question. And there are other components of the strategic plan that it may not specify young men, but they are still very much part of the framework. The sorority did recognize that our young men also need some guidance and support. And so Embody, it doesn't get the level of it doesn't have the level of visibility per se of Delta Academy and Delta Gyms because we are a sorority, but the sorority does want to ensure that our young men are also being considered and taken care of. So they're not completely out of the strategic priorities. It just doesn't call out young men like it does women and girls. So I agree with Sarah Reese, and I just wanted to add that in there as well. So I encourage you to go and look at all of the components of the strategic plan and you will see that there are areas that our young men would fit in. Thank you. Sarah Stanley.
Good evening. I am curious if this information is available, if you can speak to the civic engagement pilot that was happening with our youth initiatives and how that's going, if you all think that that really will continue within the upcoming biennium and what the vision is there for continued collaboration with social action.
Well, it is our hope. We will certainly be evaluating after this regional year. We are still working with chapters who are implementing it now. Certainly making ourselves available to answer any questions that they may have. As a matter of fact, we are sort of hoping that we are planning something where we will have speakers come in to talk to the importance of why chapters need to engage in this activity, because of this political climate that we're in and why that's so important now. And so we do look at, evaluating that to see, what we did, what we can do better. Should we move along? Should we expand it? And all those kinds of things. We're still excited about it. We're still excited about the chapters who are participating, and we're certainly looking forward to hearing about their implementation, whether they had implementation issues or not, or what kind of support they needed, all those kinds of things. So yes, we are still moving that along, and we are looking forward to evaluating to see where we go next with it.
I don't think I see any other questions or hands raised.
I have one more thing?
Go right
Thank
ahead.
you. Since we still have a little time. Soros, I did want to share, if you have tried to submit your award application for one of the youth programs under educational development, we have identified that there is a challenge. When you click on the youth program, it takes you to physical and mental health instead of educational development. Our regional technology team is working to resolve that. So if you have already submitted your application or tried to submit your application, please go back and try to submit it again. We don't want you to be discouraged and not submit your awards applications. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah Pesh.
I don't think I see any other questions, and I see Sora Denise, but I think that physical and mental health is up next. And I'm going to, oh, Sora Pierre, I see your hand.
Yes, I had a quick question. I had sent it to you, Sora Parish on DM, so you could ignore that. I was curious on where to access the strategic plan and priorities. Was it on the main website? Because when I was looking around there, it was saying certain parts of the website was check back soon. So I just was curious where to access that information.
Yes, it is on the it's on the national website. I will go and look for that link, and I'll put it in the chat.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I will look for it as well, Sarah Pesh.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next up we have physical and mental health. Sora Denise, are you covering this tonight?
No, I think they've accidentally tagged me. I'm waiting for international awareness.
Okay, 10-4. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. So I'm going to go ahead and talk a little bit about physical and mental health tonight. The questions here are a little bit different because we know the state and the place that we are in as a nation, especially for Black women. And so some of the questions that came into our physical and mental health team really focus on mental health more so than the physical side, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the physical side as well. And so the first question is, what will you still recommend as methods for coping during these difficult times? And so one of the things that Sora Davis, who is a lead for NAMI in North Carolina, she wanted to share some coping styles with you all. And so the first one is really thinking through this idea of emotion focused coping. And so what happens with emotion focus is we focus on we realize that we cannot change the problem or address the problem right now. Sometimes, especially as Black women and all the labels and intersections that we have, we can't take the opportunity to pause life to address the problem. And so we have to be in a space where we are reducing the emotions that are associated with that stressor. So that means that there may be times where something is emotionally charging to me, but I have to take a step back and do maybe some breathing work, some meditation, some prayer, so that I can focus on managing my emotion in that moment, recognizing that later I can step into a problem-focused coping style, which is really attempting to control the situation, figuring out what are the next steps? How am I going to address this kind of root cause of what I am feeling? And so once we get through this identification of the emotion and we are in a space where we can possibly focus on the problem, there's also the opportunity for us to focus on the meaning of what we are experiencing. And so this basically means how are we emotionally kind of defining the situation that we are in? What is the impact that the situation is having? How are we in a space where we can not only control our emotions, but we can also recognize that we cannot internalize the meaning of what is happening around us or to us, that we have to be in a space where we recognize that it's not about us, so kind of leaning into those 4 agreements, but being intentional about really focusing on what is the meaning of what is happening. And some other pieces of things or other things that we can do in the midst of the space, whether it be that we're focusing on the emotion, we're in a space where we can address the problem, or we're attaching meaning to something that is external from us, we also need to make sure that we are doing the work to connect with others. And so that is what social coping is. So that means that we have to recognize who our village is, who are the people that are our people, who are going to stand 10 toes down for us, who are the people that are going to be there to say, it's going to be all right, sis. Who are the people who are going to say, you know what, sis, you probably are not handling this right. And we can take that from them because we have built that relationship. Because one of the key pieces of coping is not just having awareness about what the situation is and how we're coping with it. It's also about being in a space where we find connection with others. And so that might be that we're connecting again with that village, or it could be that we're connecting with individuals who have the same experience with us because we've connected with an affinity group. One of the pieces of work that I have done in the past, is supporting women who have experienced pregnancy and infant loss. And the way that I provided that support was through a support group that was virtual. So there are people coming from across the nation connecting on this one specific problem that they were focusing on, which is their grief, and really being able to connect with one another and find that social support and coping in that space. Finally, the last one, which can be a positive in some spaces, but if we use it too much, it becomes a negative, is this idea of avoidance focused coping. And so there's been a lot of conversation lately around children who kind of take a break away from their parents, or parents who take a break away from their children. This is about avoiding the stressor that has been causing that person, whether that be the parent or the child, some level of upset or stress. And so avoidance focused coping is where we basically avoid those stressors that are putting us in a place where we feel like we're not managing or thriving our best. And so the challenge with this last type of coping style is we have to find the balance between not only avoiding those triggers or avoiding those situations that may activate our negative emotions. It's also about then doing the work to add some meaning to that situation. It also is about doing the work of making sure that I'm managing my emotions when I'm in that stressful situation. So when we're thinking about these coping styles, it's especially during these difficult times, it's all about being in a space where we can find the balance of what really works for us, what doesn't work. It's always going to be about finding connection with others. And so as we are going through these challenging times that we're in, for whatever reason, whatever that challenge may be, these are just some of those coping styles that we can put into place. Another question that we received is, what are some mental health resources that we would still recommend when we think about all the things that are happening at the federal government level? And so here are some websites that absolutely have information that will help us to kind of manage some of the mental health challenges that we might be facing, or even being in a space where we elevate or increase or enhance our self-compassion, which means that we are being as compassionate to ourselves as we are to others. And so some of those websites are Mental Health America. The National Alliance on Mental Illness provides specific resources for individuals who are not mental health providers, who are maybe living with someone who's struggling with a mental illness or facing a mental illness. They may be individuals who are supporting people who have a mental illness, whether that be counselors or coaches or teachers or family or friends. So NAMI is probably the number one resource out there that was built grassroots, not built by professionals, but specifically built by individuals who were supporting others through their challenges. The other question that came in: as African American women, how do we encourage and implement self-care? If you know anything about me as a mental health clinician, I do not like the term self-care because it has become very cliche, or very Instagrammable is the word that I use, because self-care doesn't have to be the picture perfect moment. Self-care are those little opportunities that we take to make sure that we are showing the same compassion to ourselves that we are to others. Yes, I'm repeating that because it's so very important for each of us to remember that if our compassion does not start with us, it is absolutely incomplete. And so the first piece of this is recognizing the importance of rest, whatever that looks like. If it's that you are in a position where you are constantly multitasking, taking a step back from that multitask. If you have multiple screens up like I do now, taking the opportunity to close out one of those screens, that's what rest looks like. We have earned rest as Black women in the United States of America. We have earned it. We deserve it, and so we should take it. Rest is not only what's going to help us to build our self-compassion, but it's also a form of resistance in the midst of all the things that are happening. We can take a step back and say, I just need a moment to breathe. It's also about connecting with friends and family. I mentioned this on the previous slide. We have to be intentional about maintaining and building our relationships. It's not just about me leaning constantly on my family and friends and saying, I need you, but it's also picking up the phone and saying, how are you? What do you need? How can I support you? It's even as simple as, I'm sending you a DoorDash. I hope you're home. Or are you home? Because DoorDash is on its way. It's about being intentional and not only building relationships that you have support, but also being a support to others. We hear it all the time, and we're going to continue to talk about it. And here comes the physical health side of it, is that we have to be in a space where we are eating healthily. And that means that we are doing the work to make sure that we are hitting all of those course meals that we're supposed to have, all of the different categories of food that we're supposed to have, making sure that we're staying hydrated. Many of us are feeling depressed. We are feeling deprived. We are feeling downtrodden because we're dehydrated. So it's really just about picking up that 40-ounce bottle of water and drinking it up, to make sure that we have our hydration to a place where we can continue to do the work that we're doing, while also recognizing the importance of connecting and resting. The last two pieces is about setting boundaries and also practicing those healthy coping skills. Setting boundaries for me is recognizing that no is a complete sentence, and you don't have to explain yourself. If you can't do it, you can't do it, and no is enough. And so being in a space where you have built relationship and built friendships enough to be able to say to someone no without explanation, and they understand it and they recognize it. So it's about setting boundaries for yourself and within your relationships. And then, of course, practicing those healthy coping skills that we just talked about in the previous slide. Not always being in a space where we're leaning on one or the other coping mechanism, but being in a space where we get to a place in our mind and in our mental health where we can start to address some of the challenges and the stressors that we're facing, and we address that underlying problem. But in the moment, we may have to pull in on that emotional coping, or we may have to pull in on that avoidant coping until we can get to a place where we can really address the problem and be focused in there. And then the last two slides talk about how do we still have the conversation for those who need some more emotional support. And so this graphic I know is a little bit bitty, but it comes from mentalhealth.org.uk. I'm sorry, mentalhealth.org.uk. And so these are some of the talking tips that are provided when we are just wanting to connect with someone to just have a conversation. So we want to be intentional about thinking about, is this the right time and place to have this conversation? It may not be the best place to have a conversation about someone's mental health when they are maybe out at the park with their kids and they're just having a good time, or it might not be the best time when they're sitting in a puddle crying. It's really about, do they want presence? One of the things that I talk to my clients about often is, do you want to be helped? Do you want to be heard, or do you want to be held? And so making sure that we take the opportunity to really listen to what people are needing from us instead of just automatically jumping in with recommendations. And so as mentioned previously, we are going to send these slides out to you all, and I'll make sure that this graphic is an actual PDF that you can blow up and see all the various steps when it comes to some of the talking tips when supporting someone through an emotionally challenging situation. And so with that, we have a few minutes to take a few questions. So let me see if there's anything in the chat for me. All right, I do not see anything in the chat. Do we have any questions about physical and mental health? Anything that I mentioned that you have a question about? Additional support questions? All right, I don't see any, so I'm going to pass the mic virtually to Sora Riviere.
All right. All right. Good evening, sorors, and I bring you greetings on behalf of the rest of the International Awareness and Involvement team. If you could wave when I mention your name, Sora Gemma Bowler. I see Sora Gemma. Sora April Morgan, Sora Alan Pettifer, and Sora Joyce Staples. So we are the team that is supporting across the region as it relates to your initiatives and projects under international awareness and involvement. Before I go into the questions, I would like to make sure that everybody knows that recently our regional secretary sent an email out to all the chapter presidents. So if you are an International Awareness and Involvement chair and you have not gotten that email from your chapter president, please reach out to them. Everybody should have received it. And in that email, we actually just gave some reminders and updates on some information that was shared in the November 2025 webinar, number 108. And in that, there were a couple of initiatives that we mentioned were coming up. We had to figure out some of the payment processing features for some of them. That has been done. And so you now have everything you need about 3 regional initiatives. And these are challenges that we are putting forward between now and regional conference so that we can acknowledge those chapters that have created the most activity around them. The first one is the Vaccine Ambassadors Giving Campaign, Tag Your It. For those of you that were a part of the webinar, you should remember that that was an initiative about life-saving vaccines for children and families in the Caribbean. They have done an awesome job of creating a portal that will allow you to make payment. And the important thing for all of these regional initiatives is to understand that this is not just for the chapter to contribute. Individual members in the chapter can contribute. Members outside of your chapter, if you have members at large who you know, even members of the public. So this is not about who necessarily donates versus just try to get everybody, your family, your friends, to participate. And so in the Vaccine Ambassadors Giving Campaign QR code that she's provided in the email I sent, you are asked to provide the chapter name so that we make sure that we're giving the reward of recognition to the right chapter. So even if you have your friends and family participate, just make sure that they put your chapter name in that document. So that's the first regional one. The second one was Feed My Lambs Ministry. And that is an orphanage and school that's located in Montouy, Haiti. And the owner and operator of that school and orphanage is actually a Bermudian. And I've been down there. It's an awesome initiative. As many of you know, they are dealing with some difficult things right now. Again, in the information that has been provided to you, Philip Rigo has given his email address. So in that email address, if you do donate, please make sure and mention your chapter so that we can make sure that we acknowledge the chapter. Again, not just for you or your chapter, but you can encourage friends and family to also participate in this challenge. The last one is the Bermuda Alumni Chapter Delta Pantry Program. And unfortunately, Zelle and PayPal and all those great things you have here in the United States do not work in Bermuda. So what we have done is provide our wire information, bank-to-bank wire, for you to be able to send information. And then the coordinator, Lalique Simmons, her email is there. So again, you can let us know what you've donated and the chapter. So please pull all your friends, your family, your coworkers, your chapter members, whether it comes from the chapter, any of those are fine. And let's make this a really good challenge, and let's see who gets recognized in the regional conference. Okay, so we received 3 questions in preparation for today. So the first question was, can items be sent abroad to international entities without going through the National PP&D, International Awareness and Involvement Committee? So the answer to this is it depends. If you are referring to the 7 international projects that are managed by the National PP&D, International Awareness and Involvement Committee, then you need to go through Sora Carol McLaurin. I've given her email address there. And the reason why it is important to go through her, she is aware of what the needs of the different projects are. And she will be able to give you the best advice on how to get things to those projects. In most cases, they are going to encourage you to not send physical items. If anybody has been involved in any type of initiative going overseas, believe it or not, sometimes it never gets to them or it gets to them damaged. And one of the things that Sora Carol emphasized to me is that sometimes it's actually cheaper for them to get the product in Africa. So if you are asking about one of the 9 projects, one of the 7 international Delta projects, then you do need to go through Sora Carol just to make sure that she's aware. There is an MOU between us and each one of those projects, and she will want to make sure that they send back a report on how they've used your funds. So it is important to go through that. Now, if you are referring to just international entities outside of the international Delta projects, whether it be with an international chapter or if it's another international initiative, you do not have to go through the National PP&D Committee. Okay, so if you have questions about that, just give me a second. I'll go through the other 2, and then you can ask any follow-up questions. Next slide to the next question. Can other international issues be addressed without the permission of national headquarters? Yes, as long as it is not related to one of the 7 international Delta projects, because those are under an MOU. So if they are just general international issues, you can work with whoever you've selected to work with, whether it be a chapter or another contact. The limitation or the recommendation really comes when you're focusing on the 7 international Delta projects, which, as you know, are in Africa and Haiti. The third question, can other members receive the II newsletter besides the chapter president? If so, how can one get on the mailing list? So the International Awareness and Involvement newsletter actually goes out to all financial members of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. They come out through Soar Turner's Delta Digest. So if you are not receiving the Delta Digest from Soar Turner, please go into the member portal and check to see if your email is correct, or you may have to call national headquarters. So everybody should be receiving that if you are financial. So there is no mailing list to be added to. Okay, so those were the 3 questions that we got. Are there any other questions that you have for me? If not, I have a question for you. Any other questions? Okay. Nobody sees any questions, correct?
I do hear someone, and I see a hand, Sora Skeeter.
Okay.
Yes, Sora. I'm with the Somerville Alumni Chapter, and I was wondering if there is a deadline for when we can submit the donations for any of the 3 initiatives.
We have actually not set that yet. It's one of those things that we're going to push it as far as we can. So as we start to give updates and we get closer, we'll put a deadline, but it'll probably be as close to conference as possible because we want to get as many donations as possible. But as we do give our updates over the next couple of months, we'll make sure that we communicate that. But right now, it's just send it as much as you can for as long as you can.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Brian, you see any other questions?
I do not see any other questions or hands.
Okay. My question is, can I see some hearts and some hand claps on chapters that are planning to participate in the regional challenge by donating to one of the 3 regional programs that we mentioned? Yay! Excellent. All right, we'll be looking out for it. One of the things that is in the email that I mentioned that went to your chapter president, we are trying to get the latest information on who your international awareness and involvement chairs are for your chapter. And if you don't have a specific chair, we would like to know who in your chapter actually takes care of the international awareness and involvement initiatives if you have them. So please make sure and return that form from that email. And then otherwise, like all of my counterparts in South Atlantic region PP&D, please be sure to submit for your awards under your international awareness and involvement initiatives. I do see a question. Are these donations
there are 2
separate
questions in
from
the chat for you.
to II nationally? Good question. One of the things that my team always is challenging chapters to do is to donate towards the 7 projects. That is a very specific initiative where they actually would like for chapters to do a minimum of $100 towards that. So that is if you're donating towards that. The three initiatives that I mentioned are actually regional initiatives that we're launching just to try to make a regional impact. And so they are not involved with the 7 international projects, but instead they are Haiti, Bermuda, and vaccines around the Caribbean. So those are targeted to a different area. I hope that answered the question. Okay, if not, that's it. Thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you participate in the initiatives.
Thank you so much, sir. Before you sign off, there is one question. Is credit given if we do not work with other, I'm assuming, chapters, maybe?
Can somebody clarify what they mean by that?
Yes, Sora James, if you could clarify your question.
Yes, Sora Imes, Lexington Alumni Chapter. If you do not participate in any of the ones that were stated, and have an international program that you choose to work through within our chapter, is credit given for that as well?
No, this challenge is specifically about those 3. And so it'll focus on those 3. But what we are hoping is that for those people that are working really hard in the space of international awareness and involvement, that you're actually submitting for the awards, the regional awards. This is a separate challenge that are just specific to our committee's contribution to making a change globally.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thank you, Soros.
Next up, we have public service initiatives. Sora Kelly.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, sorors. Happy Black History Month. It's almost Sisterhood Month, so I'm happy to see so many of you all virtually tonight. Before I get started, I do want to thank some of my committee members who are here, Sora Michelle Jones and Sora Renee Flemings Mills, as we have been working together to roll out some public service initiatives and then ways that we can be helpful. So next slide. So two questions that we have. The first question, please provide an example of active public service. We've been talking about this a lot. And a great example is Reading Across America Week, which is going to be next week, I believe. So again, just kind of going into spaces and being there actively where you're supporting an initiative is really important and encompasses active public service. And then the second question is providing an example of passive public service, which is collecting money or even items for a specific cause. And in this example, we talked about a local elementary school. And so, SOARs, we are very thankful for all the public service that you are doing in your chapters, you're doing individually, and we just want to make sure that we encourage you to look at more of that active service as you do passive service and then a combination of both. So again, thank you for all your hard work and what you're doing and how you're encouraging your chapters and other sorors to get out into the community. As our regional director says, we want to have our hands dirty, our boots on the ground. And so it's super important that we not only give monetary support, but we actually are in these spaces so that people can see us and we can make a difference. Next slide. And so briefly wanted to highlight our day of service for Founders Day. We want to thank all 51 chapters who submitted responses, not participated, but submitted responses to our survey that we sent out across the region for what they did on January 13th. We had 46 chapters support one of Delta Sigma Theta's charitable partners, so amazing. And then collectively about 156 total service hours. But again, that just encompasses sorors and chapters who looked at our survey and recorded a response. So I know there was much more, and so we were able to highlight some photos here. But as you can see, sorors just out in the community. My own chapter, we did some great work with the local shelter in Durham. So again, just thankful for all your hard work, what you're doing, and how we continue to show up in numbers. And I do encourage, if you have questions about submitting that to the survey and know your chapter did, we'll gladly accept the response. We want to make sure we document all that's being done across the region, especially as we think about new members in our sorority and how we look at public service in the future for what we're doing in Delta. So again, excited to report what we did for this day of service. And as you all may have noted in the weekly roundup, we will be sending more information for March 20th for the Dr. Bertha Maxwell Roddy Day of Service. So again, thank you for your patience. Thank you for getting out and doing both active and passive service and making sure that we all are just coming together and sharing ideas and tips and ways that we can continue to embody our founders and our one of our mottos, which is public service. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them regarding public service.
I do not see any questions in the chat or hands raised.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, Sora Trainum, can chapters continue to track their service in the tracker that you all have in the roundup?
Yes, I think we still have it open, and we'll keep it open if it's closed or open it back up. Just so that way, if chapters, like you mentioned, didn't have a time or a chance to participate, they have the opportunity. So we will do that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you, Soros.
All right. Okay. First, Soros, I just want to say thank you to all of our great presenters and committee members on the regional PP&D committee. We truly enjoy serving you, and we do recognize that this is a role for those with servant hearts. And we thank you for always supporting the webinars. We thank you for coming out tonight to just show us your beautiful faces, and for the ability to impart some information. And so we just thank you for your support, and we are also here to support you. And so I am going to turn it over to Sora Brandy Nicole Brooks to also give some close to wrap up before we go into closing remarks with Sora Davidson.
Thank you, Sarah Parrish. So again, as Sarah Parrish mentioned, all of the members of the South Atlantic PP&D committee are absolutely dedicated to supporting all of our chapters within our service area of Bermuda, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia to be able to implement various programs throughout our 5-point programmatic thrust to include public service initiatives. And so if you have any other questions that we were unable to answer tonight, please know that you can reach out to us directly at sardstppd@gmail.com. There we will take the opportunity to be able to send your question to the appropriate subcommittee. Excuse me, once that's sent to them, they will respond to you with their answers. Again, we're just here to not only give you ideas, but also to support you as you are thinking about your community needs assessments, as you're thinking about your surveys to determine, was this activity or program that we implemented something that our community enjoyed, and should we do it again? And so that's why we are here, is to really help to ensure that we continue our sensational programming across our region. And so I see a question in the chat: how soon will the slides be available on the website? That is a great question for our tech team, but I would say give us at least 5 business days at most to get that over to you, because we do have a couple of links and additional PDFs that we want to include with the slide deck so that you have all the information that was shared tonight. I also see Sora McClammy with your hand raised. Good evening, Sora.
Good evening, sir. I bring you greetings from Wilmington, North Carolina, Wilmington, North Carolina chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Just a quick question. I did not get to squeeze it in at the very beginning with the red pages and encouraging us to be a part of that from the national standpoint. There has been like well, I don't want to say like a glitch maybe. I don't know if it's still, I went on while we were talking, but actually when you go to red pages, it will bounce you over to your profile. I'm not sure if that's something that had been addressed, but I did just want to bring that up, and I did not know if you all knew anything about that, but it will not allow you to make the fill-in. It'll just kind of bounce you to a different section.
Thank you for that.
Oh, yeah, there she is.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I will get with the National Economic Development Committee and get that out to you guys too, with the instructions to get that rectified. But thank you for that. And thank you for going out while on the call. Love it.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
And I also saw the question to drop the email in the chat. So the email address is now in the chat. Okay, and then we also have our South Atlantic Region's International Awareness and Involvement email in the chat as well. Good evening. Will the session recording be available? Yes, we will send the link to the session recording with the slides. So again, give us at least 5 business days, sorors, because Delta is voluntary work. It's not our full time, even though it feels like it's a full time sometimes, y'all. But we love the work that we do, right? It's filling our cup. Absolutely. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Sora Davidson. Sora Davidson.
I'm catching the mic, Sora Brandy Nicole.
I appreciate you.
Got the mic. All right. Soras, we want to thank you for being on our new experiment, our Zoom meeting tonight. We would appreciate any feedback if you would like to provide us any. In addition, we hope that this Zoom meeting has been beneficial for you. We hope that the format has made you comfortable to the extent that you were able to ask the questions and receive the answers that in real time that you would like to know the answers to. So on behalf of our chair, our regional chair, Sora Parrish, my partner in crime, my co-chair, Sora Brandy Nicole, and our wonderful, wonderful subcommittee chairs and their committees, we thank you for being here and we wish you all the best on submitting your applications. And we know that you are going to make the South Atlantic region very, very proud. So have a good evening, Soros.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Tara.